The ancient warning. The old space station floated at the edge of known space like a forgotten tombstone. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge of the Earthship Pioneer, watching the massive structure grow larger on their screens. His crew had been exploring this dead sector for 3 months when their sensors picked up something impossible. A signal coming from the station that should have been silent for 5,000 years. "Captain, the signal is getting stronger," said Lieutenant Maria Torres from her communications post. Her fingers moved across the controls, trying to decode the ancient message. "It's definitely not from any known species in the Alliance database. The Alliance of Stars had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Every species knew the rules. Every species followed them, except humans, who had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. They were still learning, still questioning everything." Commander Robert Hayes, the ship's second-in-command, pulled up historical records on his screen. According to these files, this station belonged to the Eternals, the first civilization that ruled before the Alliance. They disappeared 5,000 years ago, leaving only warnings behind. The warnings were clear in every historical text. Never answer the Eternals' call. Never wake what sleeps in the void. The Alliance had made these rules into law, punishable by complete isolation of any species that broke them. But humans were curious. It was their greatest strength and their most dangerous weakness. "The signal is a distress call," Maria announced suddenly. Her voice carried surprise and worry. "It's asking for help. The message repeats every 30 seconds in a language our computers can somehow understand." James felt the weight of decision on his shoulders. His smart choice was to report this to the Alliance and leave. Let someone else deal with it. But what if someone needed help? What if lives were at stake? Humans had always believed in helping others, even strangers, even enemies. "Sir, 3 Alliance patrol ships just appeared on long-range sensors," Hayes reported. "They're heading this way. Estimated arrival in 2 hours. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The Alliance had detected the signal, too. They would destroy the station rather than risk anyone answering the call. It was their way. Eliminate threats, no matter the cost. James looked at his crew. These men and women had followed him across the galaxy. They trusted him. But he also knew them well. They were human. They wouldn't abandon someone who needed help. How long to decode the full message? He asked Maria. Maybe 30 minutes, Captain. But if we start broadcasting a response, the Alliance will know immediately. The captain walked to the main viewport, staring at the ancient station. 5,000 years of silence. 5,000 years of fear. The Alliance kept everyone safe by keeping everyone afraid. But humans had never been good at following rules they didn't understand. Begin decoding, James ordered. Full power to shields and prepare for emergency jump. If we're going to break the oldest law in the galaxy, we better be ready for the consequences. As the crew worked, the signal grew stronger. The ancient station began to show signs of power, lights flickering on after millennia of darkness. Whatever was inside had waited 5,000 years for someone brave enough or foolish enough to answer. The Alliance ships changed course, accelerating toward them. Their weapons powered up, a clear warning. The lead ship broadcast a message. Earth Vessel Pioneer, you are in violation of Primary Directive 7. Cease all activities and prepare for escort back to Alliance space. Hayes looked at his captain. Sir, if we respond to that ancient signal, Earth could be expelled from the Alliance. We could lose all trade rights, all protection. Protection from what? James asked. From questions? From the truth? Sometimes, Commander, the right choice isn't the safe choice. The crew moved with purpose. Engineers pushed the ship systems to maximum efficiency. Weapon officers ran diagnostics, knowing they might need to defend themselves. Everyone understood the risk. But they also understood something the Alliance seemed to have forgotten. Sometimes, fear of the unknown was worse than the unknown itself. The message finally decoded. Maria's face went pale as she read it. Captain, it says we are the last. The Devourers come. Only those who remember courage can stop them. Please ... anyone. Help us. James smiled grimly. Humans knew about courage. They had fought impossible odds before and won. Maybe that's why they were here. Maybe that's why the message reached them. Send the response, he commanded. Tell them humanity hears their call. Asterisk the awakening. The moment humanity's response transmitted through space, the ancient station transformed. Dead metal came alive with pulsing blue light. Systems that had slept for 5 millennia activated in sequence, each one adding to a growing hum of power that vibrated through the Pioneer's hull. Captain, something's happening inside the station, Maria reported, her eyes wide as she watched her screens. I'm reading one life sign. It just appeared out of nowhere. The Alliance ships were closing fast, their weapons fully charged. The lead vessel broadcast again, this time with more force. Earth vessel, you have committed an act of treason against galactic law. Surrender immediately or face destruction. James ignored them. His attention was fixed on the docking bay that had just opened on the station's side, inviting them in. It was a risk, but staying in open space with Alliance weapons locked on them was certain death. Take us in, he ordered. Quick and smooth. The Pioneer slipped into the ancient dock just as the first. Alliance warning shots blazed past their stern. Inside, artificial gravity kicked in immediately. The bay doors sealed behind them with a resonance that felt final. Sir, someone's approaching the ship. Hayes pointed to the external cameras. A single figure walked across the bay floor, moving with careful, measured steps. The figure was humanoid, wearing a simple gray uniform that looked military, but carried no insignia. When he reached the ship's external communication panel, he pressed his hand against it. His voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect English with only a slight accent. My name is Marcus, he said simply. I am the last guardian of this station. Thank you for answering. Please, we must talk quickly. There isn't much time. James made a decision that went against all protocol. Open the airlock. Let him in. Marcus entered the bridge minutes later. He looked human, almost perfectly so, except for his eyes. They held a depth that spoke of centuries, maybe more. He studied the crew with those ancient eyes and smiled sadly. You're humans, he said, and it wasn't a question. Of course. It had to be you. What do you mean? James asked Dot before Marcus could answer. The ship shook. The Alliance vessels were firing on the station itself, trying to destroy it with them inside. Your Alliance friends are persistent, Marcus observed calmly. But this station has weathered worse. He touched a panel on the wall, and massive shields erupted around the structure. The Alliance weapons splashed harmlessly against them. Now, let me tell you the truth they've hidden for 5,000 years, Marcus continued. The Devourers are real. They come from the dark spaces between galaxies, beings of pure hunger that consume entire civilizations. We fought them once and nearly won. Nearly? Robert asked. The younger races, what would become your Alliance, grew afraid. They thought if they stayed quiet, stayed hidden, the Devourers would pass them by. So they betrayed us, sabotaged our final assault. We had to retreat, go into stasis, wait for someone with courage to wake us. Suddenly, new contacts appeared on the Pioneer's sensors. Earth ships. A full battle fleet led by the dreadnought Determination. This is Admiral Johnson of Earth. Fleet, came a powerful voice over the communications. Alliance vessels, you are threatening an Earth exploration ship. Stand down immediately. The Alliance commander responded with cold fury. Admiral, your species has broken the most sacred law. You will all face judgment. The only law we recognize, Johnson replied, is the duty to help those in distress. Marcus smiled, the first genuine warmth crossing his features. Your admiral speaks like an eternal. There's a reason for that. He pulled up a holographic display showing a star map from 5 millennia ago. When we knew we were betrayed, some of us fled. We found a distant world, far from Alliance space. A blue planet orbiting a yellow star. James felt his breath catch. Earth, you are our descendants, Marcus confirmed. The courage you show, the curiosity that drives you, the refusal to abandon those in need. It's not just human nature. It's eternal nature. You carry our legacy in your very genes. The station's sensors suddenly screamed warnings. Hayes checked the readings, and his face went white. Captain, something's coming. From outside the galaxy. The signatures. They're massive. Marcus's expression turned grim. They found us. The Devourers have returned. On the screens, shapes began to emerge from the void. Biomechanical monstrosities, the size of moons, covered in writhing tentacles and gaping maws. They moved through space like living nightmares, heading straight for them. Now, Marcus said, humanity must decide. Will you run like the Alliance, or will you remember who you really are? Asterisk the truth of fear. The Devourer scouts struck without warning. 3 smaller bioships, each the size of a city, peeled away from the main swarm and accelerated toward the station. The Alliance vessels opened fire immediately, their energy beams painting space in brilliant blues and greens. The beams hit the creatures and did nothing. The energy was simply absorbed, making the Devourers glow brighter as they fed on the attack. Alliance weapons make them stronger, Marcus said grimly. They consume energy itself. Admiral Johnson's voice crackled over comms. All Earth ships, switch to kinetic weapons. Railguns and missiles only. The Earth fleet adjusted instantly. Solid projectiles traveling at incredible speeds slammed into the scout ships. This time, the creatures reeled. Black ichor sprayed into the vacuum as wounds opened in their hide. Your weapons work because they're simple, Marcus explained. The Devourers evolved to feed on advanced energy signatures. They never expected anyone to throw rocks at them, even very fast rocks. One scout ship turned toward the station. Its maw opened, revealing rows of teeth that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. James ordered all weapons to fire, but Marcus stopped him. No, follow me to the station's core. There's something you need to see. James left Hayes in command and followed Marcus deeper into the station. Maria came with them, her scanner recording everything. They moved through corridors that lit up at their approach, past chambers filled with dormant machinery that hummed with potential. The core was a vast spherical chamber, its walls covered in flowing script that hurt to look at directly. In the center floated a crystalline structure that pulsed with soft light. The Archive of Truth, Marcus announced. Everything the Alliance doesn't want you to know. He touched the crystal, and the room filled with holographic images. They showed the galaxy 5,000 years ago. Eternals and young races working together, building, exploring. Then came the first Devourer invasion. The images showed the war, terrible and magnificent, with the Eternals slowly winning. We had them beaten, Marcus said. One final push would have ended it. But then ... the images shifted. Secret meetings between Alliance founders. Fear spreading like poison. They were terrified that defeating the Devourers would attract something worse. So they made a choice. They sabotaged the Eternal fleet during the final battle. The Alliance built their entire civilization on fear, Maria whispered, horrified. Every law, every restriction, it's all to keep us hidden and quiet. Worse than that, Marcus corrected. They knew the Devourers would return eventually. They chose to let future generations face them unprepared, rather than risk fighting them properly. The station shook. Outside, the battle raged. Maria's hand brushed against one of the wall panels accidentally, and suddenly the entire room responded. Script flowed across her skin, glowing softly. "What's happening to me?" She gasped. Marcus smiled. "Genetic recognition. You have particularly pure eternal genes. The station recognizes you as one of its builders." He guided her hand to another panel. "Try to interface with it. Think about what you want to know." Maria closed her eyes, and knowledge flowed into her mind. Weapons designs, ship specifications, technologies beyond anything Earth had imagined. But one stood out above all others. Project Phoenix, she breathed. It's a merger system. Human consciousness joining with Ship A is to create something new. Something the Devourers can't consume because it's both organic and synthetic, energy and matter. The station shook again, harder this time. Marcus checked the displays. "The scouts are breaking through. We need to get this information to your fleet." They ran back through the corridors, Maria's mind still reeling from the download. When they reached the bridge, the situation was desperate. One Alliance ship was already gone, consumed entirely. Earth forces were holding, but ammunition was running low. "Captain," Hayes reported, "Admiral Johnson is requesting immediate tactical data. He says if we have any eternal secrets, now would be the time." James looked at Maria. She nodded and began transmitting everything she'd learned. Across the Earth fleet, engineers and scientists started working immediately, adapting their ships with knowledge that had been hidden for millennia. Marcus watched the humans work with something like pride. "You adapt so quickly. The Alliance never understood that about you. They thought your rapid development was dangerous. They never realized it was exactly what the galaxy would need." On the screens, more Devourer ships appeared. Hundreds of them, each one hungry and searching. The main fleet had arrived. "Sir," Maria said quietly, "I found something else in the archive. A message from my ancestor. She was the lead scientist on Project Phoenix. She says she hid seedlings of the technology on Earth, in our oldest ruins, waiting for us to be ready." James made his choice. "Signal Admiral Johnson. Tell him we need volunteers for Phoenix Protocol. It's time humanity remembered what we were born to do." Asterisk the courage gene. The call went out across human space. Admiral Johnson's message was simple. Humanity needs volunteers for a dangerous mission. "We cannot promise you will survive. We can only promise that your courage will matter." Within an hour, 12,000 humans had volunteered. Soldiers, scientists, pilots, even civilians. They came from Earth, from Mars, from the colony worlds. The requirement was simple. Be willing to merge your mind with an artificial intelligence to fight monsters from beyond the galaxy. Robert Hayes was the first to step forward on the Pioneer. "I'll do it," he said simply. "Someone has to be first." Marcus led them to a chamber deep in the station where an eternal warship waited. It was beautiful and terrible, organic curves mixed with crystalline structures, alive but not living. At its heart was a pod designed for a human pilot. "The process will hurt," Marcus warned. "Your consciousness will expand beyond anything you've experienced. Some who tried this 5,000 years ago went mad. Good thing humans are already a little crazy," Robert replied. Climbing into the pod. The moment the connections engaged, Robert screamed. His mind exploded outward, touching every system of the ship simultaneously. For a moment, he was everywhere and nowhere. Then slowly, he found balance. The ship's AI met his consciousness halfway, and together they became something new. "I can feel everything." Robert's voice came through the ship's speakers, wonder replacing pain. "The ship, space itself, I can feel the Devourer's hunger. But also, he paused. I can feel something they can't consume. Hope, determination, the things that make us human. Across the system, more volunteers underwent the process. Each merger was unique, each pilot bringing their own strength to their ship. Within 6 hours, humanity had a fleet of 200 Phoenix vessels, but the Alliance was not idle. Their Elder Council arrived with their most powerful fleet, weapons charged and aimed at Earth itself. Humans, the Elder Prime broadcast, his voice carrying the authority of 10,000 years of rule. You have broken our most sacred laws. Surrender now, or we will remove your homeworld from existence. Admiral Johnson's response was calm. You want to destroy Earth? The planet that might be the galaxy's only hope? Tell me, Elder, how has hiding worked out for you? Marcus activated a galaxy-wide broadcast from the station. His message reached every inhabited world simultaneously. I am Marcus of the Eternals. The Alliance has lied to you for 5 millennia. They chose fear over courage. They let you believe the Devourers were myth while knowing they would return. But humans carry the solution in their very genes. The broadcast showed everything. The betrayal, the truth about human origins, the Phoenix Project. Across the galaxy, younger species began to question. The Makari, only 600 years in space, sent a message. We stand with humanity. The Velans, the Quatari, even the logical Synthics. One by one they declared their support. The Elder Prime's voice turned cold. You have doomed us all. The Devourers feed on conflict, on resistance. By fighting, you only make them stronger. No, Maria said, her understanding from the archive flowing through her. They feed on fear, the psychic energy of terror. That's why your policy of hiding made them stronger, not weaker. Every frightened civilization is a feast for them. As if to prove her point, the Phoenix ships engaged a cluster of Devourer scouts. The human pilots projected not fear, but determination, courage, even humor in the face of danger. One pilot was actually laughing as he flew his ship through a Devourer's attack. The creatures recoiled, wounded by emotions they couldn't digest. That's impossible, the Elder Prime whispered. The main Devourer fleet pressed closer. Thousands of bioships, each one hungry for the feast of fear they expected to find. But Earth's response was not what they anticipated. Cities didn't evacuate in panic. Instead, humans gathered in squares and homes, supporting each other, singing songs of defiance. Children drew pictures of Phoenix ships winning. The elderly told stories of humanity's past victories against impossible odds. The emotional wavelength of an entire species refusing to be afraid rippled through space. The Phoenix pilots channeled it, weaponized it, turned humanity's greatest strength into a shield and sword. Asterisk. Marcus looked at the tactical display. They're hesitating. For the first time in recorded history, the Devourers are hesitating. James knew this was the moment. All ships, all stations, all humans everywhere, remember who we are. We are the children of Eternals. We are the species that looked at space and said, we belong there. We are the ones who answer when someone calls for help. The Phoenix fleet formed up, 200 ships carrying humanity's courage into the dark. Behind them, inspired by their example, young Alliance species began broadcasting their own defiance. The galaxy was remembering how to be brave. The galaxy remembers James made the hardest decision of his life. Half the Phoenix fleet would defend Earth from the Alliance threat, while he would lead the other half directly at the Devourer swarm. Admiral Johnson understood without words. Humanity would not abandon their home, but they would not abandon the galaxy either. The Phoenix ships moved like dancers through space, each pilot a I-merger unique in its fighting style. Some were aggressive, ramming into Devourers with laughing defiance. Others were protective, shielding refugee ships with determination so strong it became a physical barrier. The Devourers had never faced anything like it. Then the true nature of the devourers revealed itself. The biomechanical shells began to crack and split. From inside came beings of pure darkness, shadow-given hunger. They were psychic parasites from another dimension, using physical forms only as anchors in our reality. They're not really alive, Maria realized, studying the readings. They're more like emotional black holes. They exist only to consume consciousness itself. Robert's Phoenix ship broadcast from the front lines. Then we give them something they can't swallow. Not fear, not anger, but joy. Pure, stubborn, human joy in the face of adversity. It sounded insane. But across the human fleet, pilots began to understand. They thought of everything that made life worth living. First kisses, children's laughter, a taste of chocolate, sunset on Earth, the moment humanity first touched the stars. They projected these feelings like weapons. The devourers writhed. Joy was poison to them. Hope was acid. They had evolved to consume negative emotions, and positive ones burned them from inside. Marcus knew his time had come. The station has one last protocol, he told James, a galaxy-wide awakening. But someone must stay to activate it manually. The process is ... final. There has to be another way, James protested. There is, Marcus smiled. There always is. But this is the right way. He walked to the station's core one last time. Tell your people that the Eternals are proud of what they've become. The station began to pulse with golden light. Marcus placed both hands on the crystal archive and spoke a single word in the Eternal language. The light exploded outward, racing faster than physics should allow, touching every world in the galaxy simultaneously. On thousands of planets, hidden Eternal technology activated. Not weapons, but teaching machines. Libraries of knowledge. Medical devices. Tools for building, not destroying. The galaxy's inheritance, hidden for 5 millennia, finally delivered. Young species found themselves suddenly understanding technologies they'd never imagined. The Makari discovered they could heal with sound. The Velans learned to grow ships from seeds. Even the logical Synthics found new ways to merge organic and digital consciousness. The Alliance Elders watched their control dissolve in minutes. 10,000 years of rule through fear, ended by a single act of sacrifice and hope. The Elder Prime ship turned its weapons away from Earth and toward the Devourers. Perhaps, he transmitted, his ancient voice carrying resignation and something like relief. We were wrong. Warriors of Earth, what do you need from us? Just fight, James replied. Fight beside us, not above us. The battle turned into something magnificent. Every species brought their own strength. The crystalline shards sang harmonies that disrupted devourer cohesion. The aquatic depths created gravity wells that trapped the shadow beings. The Alliance's energy weapons, modified with human ingenuity and eternal knowledge, finally found their mark, but it was humanity's Phoenix fleet that led the charge, diving into the heart of the swarm with absolutely no fear. They sang battle songs over open channels. They made jokes while fighting cosmic horrors. One pilot was heard saying, "I've had worse days at the office." The Devourers, faced with a galaxy that refused to fear them, began to retreat. They slipped back into the dark spaces between galaxies, wounded and confused. For the first time in their existence, their food had fought back and won in the aftermath. As the various fleets gathered around the now dormant Eternal Station, a new government formed. Not an alliance based on control, but a commonwealth based on cooperation. Earth was offered leadership as the inheritors of the ETERNALS. James, speaking for humanity, declined. We don't want to rule. We want to explore, to learn, to help. Make Earth a place of learning. Let every species send their children to study alongside ours. 1 year later, the Academy of Courage opened its doors on Earth. Children of 100 species learned together. played together, grew together. They studied eternal technology, but also human literature, Makari music, synthetic logic. Maria stood teaching a mixed class, her hand still bearing the glowing marks of eternal recognition. On the board behind her were the words that had become humanity's gift to the galaxy. Courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. The galaxy had learned humanity's greatest lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is playing it safe. Sometimes the forbidden's call is the one that must be answered. After 5,000 years of silence, the galaxy was finally singing again.